Hello, 190 subscribers. You're watching Chillmonger, the other mutant from Wakanda. I spent a semester in Westchester, and I am an excellent pro wrestler. You didn't just see that. You did just see this, though. That is a variant cover of X-Men. Why did you doubt me? It's issue number 1, but Legacy issue number 645. They're continuing with the Legacy from Uncanny X-Men. This should be volume 4 of the X-Men, if I'm not mistaken. There was the original one. There was New X-Men, which continued that. X-Men Legacy continued the numbering. They stopped X-Men Legacy after Avengers vs. X-Men. And then there was like a girls-only Avengers team, X-Men team. And here we go. So X-Men starts with a black page. Usually it's not white page, but now it's black with a glimmer of red. Scott Summers is talking. And Professor X had the biggest quote. But choosing to keep your eyes closed because you're scared, that's what they do. Big quote. That's bigger than everything in Hawks and Pox that happened so far. And spoke to me big time. There was a couple of stupid things in here that spoke to me, like Krakoa and dishwashing, but this was great. So spoilers, of course, for my reviews if you're new here. It's a number 1. I'm guessing I'm attracting new audiences. I'm just going to spoil the shit out of this starting from the beginning of the comic book. Jean Grey, name is up here in not code, but Prestige is up there in code name everyone else. I hope that we go, because they made an effort, especially in the first mission, to call everyone by their codename Magneto Polaris, even though they're dad and daughter. I hope that continues here. I want to be able to call Kitty Pryde Shadowcat. That's a mandate here on Chillmonger. We're going to be using their mutant nicknames. So Marvel Girl. That's a little bit problematic, though, because we have a Ms. Marvel who may be confused as Marvel Girl. By the way you pronounce her name is Ms. Marvel, not Miss Marvel. There's a difference between the words. Google it. I don't know why I'm mad at you. Let's talk about Storm and Cyclops killing it in the beginning. Storm being the MVP of this comic book. The artwork of her shooting her bolts, the artwork of Cyclops doing a barrel roll and shooting over and watching the little optic beam hit the attack, the guys. Francis Yu doing his thing over here. Lineal Francis Yu. And Storm, of course, making that a big observation that these guys are up in formation. That must mean that they're guarding something. Made out of vibranium doors. What? What are we doing in Wakanda? They were not part of this Orchis experiment. They had no business in it. They weren't part of Hydra, AIM, or SHIELD, or any of those people, humans, trying to fuck over the mutants. I don't know what's going on over there. I know that Gentle, that's the first mutant from Wakanda. Me and him get along. I know that Gentle is hated amongst his people, but that's nothing to do with him being a mutant. That's because his dad is Russian. If he wasn't that, then maybe... interesting. All right. What if Gentle is hated because he's a mutant, but you know how bigots do, where they'll say that they hate him for our reason? No, it's not because he's a mutant. I got mutant friends. It's not because of that. It's because his dad is Russian, and we're strictly Wakandan over here. We barely get along with the African border nations. So it's a Wakanda thing. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe the Wakandans were really anti-human, anti-mutant this whole time. Maybe that's why they hated Storm, not because she was an outsider, but because they didn't accept her because she's a mutant or mutie. Vibranium is no match for Magneto. Magneto uses his powers by... He spoke a little bit too long with Polaris. Like, they were out here pointing their guns at him. Their metal guns at him, mind you. But Polaris takes care of them. He takes care of the wall. Bob's your uncle. While they get in there, the humans have this, I guess, reverse evolution, depending on what you believe. But they go backwards into gorilla people. Magneto fucked them up real quick, as they deserve to. The whole point of this mission was to free a couple of mutants from their chambers. Got about 12 of them, but then I counted more later on. That's just nitpicking, though. No, that's not nitpicking. I don't know. Look, there's 12 tubes, Zordon tubes from Power Rangers Lost in Space, and out of one of them comes this post-human. And they explain that they've got some Tachyon blood, Tachyon. You know, and I know, and everybody knows for a fact that Jonathan Hickman is one of those sickos who puts words like that in his comic. Looks at the words on Google Trends. You can see how often a word was Googled on Tuesday. And then he looks for it on Wednesday. And Chillmonger, that guy must have Googled that word. And who else Googled that word? And he gets off that, putting words like this in comic books. You know he's doing that. Or I think he's doing that. Here's what I mean by more than 12 mutants, though. Because there was more than 12 tubes. And I counted more. A couple of first appearances, I guess, if they decide to do anything with these characters, which I don't think they will. There's no new mutant comic book coming out featuring like new Young Mutants. So it looks like they're just here for no reason. But there was a cool kid with green skin and jaggedy teeth. I like to see him. The post-human, I guess, would be the first appearance. And you don't need first appearances in your comic book if it's an issue number 1 of X-Men. You know that's going to be selling off the shelves. They're probably going to sell fucking 300 issues, 300,000 issues in this when I read the Diamond, the Comic Cron monthly North American units sold list. You know this is going to be up in the 300s. House of X, Powers X was up in the 100. They're all north of 100. So this is going to be the stack on, and I was early in my comic story this week. The stack for X-Men was double of what he usually orders at that comic shop, which I'm not going to tell you about because I got this comic early. Storm is the man, and they reached Krakoa. Magneto's being celebrated. That's cool to see Magneto make a full 180.
I'm in a position to talk to these kids and they listen. I ain't no politician, but I kick it with him a minute.
He got his big moment. Storm got her moment, and then they're never seen in this comic again because it's the Summers thing. Let's actually go up to space. Up in space, Scott Summers is talking to his dad, Corsair. Corsair never entered Krakoa. I always wondered who would be the first human allowed in Krakoa, or either snuck into Krakoa. Maybe Kamala. She can change her genes, right? She can maybe even activate an X gene. Ooh, that'd be interesting. I wouldn't want that to happen because she's an Inhuman. I wouldn't want an Inhuman and a mutant. But imagine she just like, okay, I'm gonna pretend to be someone else, enter Krakoa. It seems I fooled the locals, and then she could get into it with her mutant friend from Champions. Interesting, right? I should write for this. I should write for Marvel right now. There are 2 new mutants up in Krakoa. One was all silvery and one was all red fiery. And Storm and Cyclops were talking about it and how they're going to save him. Scott is living on the blood clot moon. He is living on the moon. The moon, you know, the lunar. Remember when they planted the House of X number 1, they planted that seed and one of the pictures was on the moon? That's where Scott lives. He lives on the moon with his dad Corsair, with his brothers, Alex and Gabriel. And Vulcan is acting like he knew Jean this whole time, even though Jean was dead when his story popped up. Now, Vulcan, I can explain his mentality. This Vulcan was never the Magister of the Shi'ar Empire. They never had the Cerebro to back up that sort of information. That knowledge from his brain was never backed up. Everything they have on Vulcan is pre-Deadly Genesis 1975's Giant Size X-Men. That story, everything they have from Vulcan has to be since that moment onwards, because he's never been on the Cerebro radar since then. So this guy's talking about how he has daddy issues, and I'm just explaining that. A lot of things happen that you can just say because Krakoa, right? Why was he revived? Because Krakoa. Why do we have dishwashing fluid? Because Krakoa. Jonathan Hickman had so much time on his hand. He explained dishwashing. That thing spoke to me in this comic book as like a non-dishwasher kind of guy, a guy who would reuse the same plates, a guy who would not use a fork because that means that you'd have to clean it, so you gotta use my hands in this one. I'm that kind of guy, so that dishwasher, that means a lot to me, man. The more you know. Along with them is Wolvie. Now, Logan living on the moon is going to be problematic because he was an absolute carnage this week because he's Wolverine. He's always going to be in these comic books. Remember Loki issue number 3? There was the library where they kept scribes on Loki. They kept Spider-Man's, but his stack was all the way here. And then Wolverine's stack would reach the ceiling because he's in every comic book. That's going to be problematic eventually. You'll see him and I'll be like, oh, well, is he supposed to be living on the moon? Isn't the moon station supposed to serve as a lookout kind of for the Earth? Maybe for... What is it a lookout for? Is it to protect the Earth? Do they even care? Maybe because Krakoa happens to be on Earth, they have a little bit of interest. But I would love to see the next big summer event and have the X-Men just be like, nah, you guys got this one. Hated and feared. You guys take care of that stuff. And if push comes to shove, finally, maybe the X-Men show up. Imagine that. And they finally save it. And then they finally go on their little Cerebro network and they say, humans, you are trespassing on our planet. This belongs to us now. Here's the new... And then maybe that's when X versus A can pop up. That's the big crossover mega event that I think they're leading to. Not Avengers versus X-Men. X-Men versus Avengers. There's a little layout of the Summers house. I did read it once, but I don't think it'll matter ever. When has like where somebody's bedroom is ever mattered in comic books? Never. So with them wasting pages. Absolute Carnage this week was oversized. I think it was $4.99. Let me tell you for sure. Absolute Carnage this week was $4.99, just $1 extra. But they killed it. There's the difference between Jordan White and Nick Lowe. Let's go up to space. Orchid. Now, there's a director named Killian, and that looks like that's the top dog. And we met the doctor, Gregor, the woman who was married, and she's talking about how she missed the funeral of her husband because there wasn't that many remains. That is some tragic ass stuff, man. And you can make real world connections between that and that. That's just tragic as hell. The biggest takeout I will find from this guy is the fact that he said, look at what they have done. He said those words like House of X issue number 4 didn't just end with that. As if I don't want to hear about both sides. I don't want to hear about the both sides of the mutants and the fucking humans. Nah. Like the page was even orange as I said both sides. But he's out here speaking like he needs to do this to continue humanity. Mutants are the continuity of humanity. All you gotta do is exist, live, die, have some children. Maybe they'll have the gene. Maybe the couple generations later they have the gene. It's not a fight between the two of you. You just gotta live and die. Having a lot of mutants does not hurt you at all. You're just existing. Yeah, I'm taking this a little too seriously, but like I opened the video, I'm the second mutant from Wakanda, and these things piss me off because there's really forces out here trying to end lives for existing. They are teenagers and then they become mutants. By the way, what I was saying earlier about who's going to be the first human to enter Krakoa, a teenager with the gene, they're still superior, like they're not sapient anymore. So because of that, they don't count as human to me. I'll consider them mutants. So who will be that first human to enter Krakoa? Will they sneak in like Ant-Man, or will they be granted access like maybe Captain America, Captain Marvel, her and Rogue? They're okay, right? One of them two captains, I think. I can see a reason why you would want Captain Marvel. Well, she's Kree, isn't she? So maybe that doesn't count. Maybe she doesn't fit my criteria. So get to the end of the comic book where we got this little shard that the Gregor Doctor has. It looks like maybe something from Black Panther Intergalactic Empire, them M'Kraan crystals. I know those are from the Shi'ar Empire, I know that. But maybe something from the Black Panther will matter in this comic book. Maybe. And it'll finally like be salvaged because I dropped that book after issue number 2. It wasn't for me. That's the comic. What is that crystal? How are you going to bring humans back? Humans, not mutants. What did they pick up from? And Moira must not know about this. She never mentioned it in any of her lives. She did live to 1,000, but remember she was in captivity for a lot of those years. Interesting, right? Look, we can't have our mutants, we can't have our mutants set sails, smooth sailing for the rest of the comic. There are 6 titles coming out of this. 6 titles, which I'm subscribed to. I'm definitely reading X-Men and New Mutants. I'm definitely reading Fallen Angels because I like Brian Edward Hill. I watched him do 2 interviews, one on Comic Book University, one on Perch, and listening to him talk, I read his Killmonger story. Killmonger was all right. Naturally, I read his Killmonger story, but I kind of knew spoilers for Killmonger. I kind of knew that every character that's introduced in that comic wouldn't make it out of that comic, so I'm just, because Killmonger's dead in main Marvel universe, Killmonger's dead thanks to Spectrum. I'm reading that one. X-Force, I'm gonna read issue up to 3, and Excalibur I'll read up to 3, but I told my comic book vendor earlier today, I don't need it. Thanks for watching my videos. As always, you can subscribe by clicking on the thing that just spawned as I spun my arms around and punched the air. Here's my most recent video, and here's my recommended best for viewer video according to YouTube. Thanks for watching.